You know the feeling. You are physically exhausted, staring at a massive pile of work or a complicated home repair, and even when a partner or friend explicitly asks if they can help, your immediate, reflexive response is, "No, I've got it." You pride yourself on never needing anyone, on being the one who carries the weight, fixes the problems, and navigates the storms without ever asking for a hand. You view this total self-reliance as a badge of honor, a sign of maturity, and a defense against ever being let down. But when you are alone at night, that same independence feels less like a superpower and more like a high, thick wall. You realize that while you are excellent at being alone, you are terrified of being vulnerable. You desperately crave a deep, soul-level connection, yet the moment someone tries to get close, you feel a visceral sense of suffocation and pull away. You are caught in the classic hyper-independent paradox. You are so good at surviving that you have accidentally made it impossible to actually live with anyone else. We often celebrate this kind of extreme self-sufficiency as strength, but it is actually a deeply entrenched survival mechanism. It is a protective fortress built by a nervous system that learned, at a very young age, that relying on others is a dangerous gamble. Today, we are going to look at why your hyper-independence is not a personality trait, but a trauma response, and how it is systematically destroying your ability to experience intimacy. The biological root of this illusion starts with a concept called the attachment-independence trade-off. If you are hyper-independent, your internal baseline was likely set by caregivers who were emotionally inconsistent or physically unavailable. You learned the painful lesson that if you expressed a need, you were ignored, or worse, you were made to feel like an inconvenience. Your young brain realized that the only person you could ever truly trust was yourself. So, you optimized your entire development for total self-reliance. You became the child who did their own homework, managed their own emotions, and hid their struggles to avoid being a burden. This feels incredibly safe in the short term because you are in total control. But neurobiologically, this creates a state of chronic, high-functioning hyper-arousal. You are constantly scanning your environment for threats, and your brain's threat detection center, the amygdala, never actually powers down because you are carrying the weight of your entire world by yourself. When you refuse help, you aren't just completing a task. You are manually soothing your nervous system's fear of abandonment by ensuring that no one else ever has the power to let you down. This defense mechanism is so effective that it creates a structural distortion in how you perceive human closeness. You start to see intimacy through a lens called competitive self-reliance. It should function like two gears in a machine, sharing the load and co-regulating their nervous systems. But your brain has rewritten the manual. It sees any form of dependence, like sharing a worry or asking for support, as a weakness that compromises your survival. This leads to what psychologists call the avoidant-dismissive cycle. You start to unconsciously treat your partner not as a teammate, but as an external variable that you have to manage. You stop sharing your struggles because you don't trust them to handle your vulnerability. And when they eventually feel the distance, they might pull away or complain about your isolation. Your brain then takes this as absolute, objective proof that you were right all along. It says, "See, I knew I couldn't rely on them." By keeping everyone at arm's length, you confirm your own isolation, and you continue to starve your nervous system of the very thing it needs to finally feel safe: genuine, vulnerable partnership. To dismantle this fortress, you have to realize that hyper-independence is not a state of strength. It is a state of physiological rigidity. Your nervous system has lost the capacity for flexibility, which is the hallmark of secure attachment. The first step in your rescue protocol is implementing the micro-vulnerability experiment. Because your brain views a request for help as a total surrender of control, you cannot start by sharing your deepest traumas. That is too big, too fast, and will trigger your panic. Instead, you need to desensitize your amygdala by intentionally creating small, safe failures of control. This week, pick one low-stakes task, something like asking a friend to pick up one grocery item on their way over, or telling a colleague that you aren't sure how to fix a minor technical glitch. The moment you ask, your brain will flood your system with cortisol and scream at you to take the task back. You must treat this signal that you are doing the right thing. Stay in the moment, acknowledge the fear, and do not take the control back. By allowing the request to stand, you are teaching your brain that you can survive the experience of needing someone, and that the world does not collapse when you are not perfectly in charge. The second part of the protocol is the cognitive reframe of interdependence. You have to stop viewing independence and dependence as two opposite ends of a single scale. In truth, human connection works on a spectrum called interdependence, where you are secure enough in your own selfhood to allow yourself to lean on others, and sturdy enough to let them lean on you. Every time you catch your brain thinking, I have to do this alone because I don't want to bother anyone, you must actively challenge that thought. Write it down in your notes app and then write the counter thought. Asking for support is not an imposition, it is an invitation for connection. You are manually training your prefrontal cortex to identify the difference between a real burden and a normal, healthy exchange of human energy. When you share a burden, you aren't giving away your strength. You are building a bridge between your nervous system and another person's, which is the only way to actually reduce the baseline level of stress in your body. The final, most critical step is what we call the vulnerability exposure ladder. Hyper-independent people suffer from a distorted fear of rejection, believing that if they show a crack in the armor, they will be abandoned. To fix this, you need to map out your own fears. Create a list of things you keep hidden, rated from 1 to 10 in terms of how vulnerable they make you feel. Maybe saying, I'm having a bad day, is a 2. Admitting, I'm afraid of failing, might be a 5. Sharing a deeply held insecurity is a 10. Start sharing the 2s and 3s with the people you trust. Do not look for a grand reaction. Simply practice the act of letting them see you in a state of imperfection. When they respond with care instead of judgment, it acts as a corrective emotional experience. It rewires the old software that says, need equals danger. Over time, your system will begin to recognize that it is not only safe to be imperfect, but that intimacy actually grows in the very spaces where you allow yourself to be seen. You have spent your entire life believing that being alone is the only way to stay safe. But safety isn't found in a fortress. It is found in the ability to move through the world knowing that, even when things get heavy, you don't have to carry it all by yourself. Take the risk of being a human being instead of an iron machine. Take care of your machine, and I will see you in the next one.